Since early 2022, the US and EU have led a global effort to isolate Russia economically, rallying allies and partners around the world to take a unified stand. The aim was clear: to punish Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine, and to send a strong message that such aggression would not go unanswered. In response, Western governments imposed sweeping sanctions, targeting Russian banks, industries, and individuals. These measures were designed to cripple Russia's economy, restrict its access to global markets, and pressure its leadership to change course. Yet despite these efforts, billions of dollars in goods still flow between Russia and the very Western powers championing these sanctions. Trade routes remain active, and Russian products continue to find their way into Western markets, sometimes through indirect channels or loopholes. This isn't a minor oversight, it's a calculated decision, shaped by the realities of global interdependence and the need to protect domestic interests. While overall trade has dropped, critical goods like nuclear fuel, fertilizers, and liquefied natural gas continue to move. These commodities are essential for keeping power plants running, crops growing, and industries operating across Europe and beyond. The West is waging economic warfare, but it's also maintaining trade lifelines deemed too vital to cut. For many countries, the cost of a complete break with Russia would be too high to bear, risking energy shortages, rising prices, and economic instability. This paradox exposes the tension between political ideals and economic necessities. Leaders must balance the desire to punish aggression with the practical need to keep their economies afloat. Completely severing ties with a major supplier like Russia would bring severe risks for the West itself, from energy crises to food shortages and financial turmoil. The situation raises tough questions. How effective are sanctions if trade persists? Are these measures truly changing Russia's behavior, or simply creating new challenges for everyone involved? And what does this say about the power of trade as a political tool? Can economic pressure alone achieve political goals, or does it inevitably collide with the realities of global commerce? This complex reality sets the stage for a broader debate about fairness, consistency, and the true limits of economic statecraft in an interconnected world. The West's selective trade with Russia is a strategic calculation, not a sign of weakness. Sanctions were never meant to cause total collapse, but to degrade Russia's war machine while avoiding global chaos. A full embargo would hurt Russia but also destabilize Western economies and global markets. That's why sanctions target technology and finance, while sparing sectors like agriculture and raw materials. Take nuclear fuel. Russia supplies enriched uranium crucial for Western power plants. Replacing it would take years and risk energy security. Russian fertilizers are also vital. Cutting them off could trigger food crises, especially in developing nations. Western leaders know that overreaching could backfire, fueling humanitarian disasters and undermining support for Ukraine. The ongoing trade is a calculated move to maintain pressure on Russia without triggering global instability. The economic ties between the West and Russia run deep, stretching back decades and weaving a complex web of mutual dependence. From energy to raw materials and from technology to finance, both sides have built intricate relationships that fuel their economies and shape global markets. Making a clean break is nearly impossible without major fallout. The sheer scale of these connections means that any attempt to sever them would send shockwaves through industries and communities on both sides. Severing all Russian imports would disrupt supply chains, halt production in key industries, and threaten jobs across the US and Europe. Factories could grind to a halt, and workers might find themselves suddenly unemployed, as companies scramble to find alternative sources or adapt to shortages. Critical sectors, like automotive and aerospace, depend on Russian metals such as palladium and nickel. These materials are essential for manufacturing everything from catalytic converters to aircraft engines, and finding substitutes is neither quick nor easy. A sudden cutoff could spark inflation, recession, and social unrest, especially in Europe, where reliance on Russian energy remains significant. Rising prices for fuel and food could quickly erode living standards, leading to public anger and political instability. The EU has reduced its dependence, but some member states still need Russian supplies to keep industries running and homes heated. For these countries, alternatives are limited and often more expensive, making a rapid transition particularly challenging. Ordinary citizens and small businesses feel the impact most acutely, as higher costs ripple through the economy and force difficult choices about spending and investment. The West's approach is a compromise. punish Russia, but avoid economic self-destruction. Policymakers must balance moral imperatives with the practical realities of keeping their own economies afloat. Sanctions are blunt tools, and their collateral damage can be unpredictable. Markets can react violently, and unintended consequences may ripple far beyond the intended targets. The goal is to maximize pressure on Moscow while keeping Western economies stable. Achieving this delicate balance requires constant adjustment and international cooperation. A policy that triggers a severe recession at home would collapse long before it achieves its aims abroad. Ultimately, the challenge is to stand firm without inflicting wounds that could undermine the very values and prosperity the West seeks to defend. While the West maintains selective trade with Russia, it takes a different approach with India, a strategic partner. US and EU trade measures against India aren't punitive sanctions, but economic policy tools targeting market access and regulatory standards. The US has imposed tariffs on Indian steel and aluminum, citing national security and protecting domestic industries. Disputes extend to digital taxes, agriculture, and intellectual property. The EU's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism (CBAM) adds tariffs on carbon-intensive imports, framed as climate policy but seen by India as protectionism. These measures impact major sectors of India's economy, creating friction with a partner the West courts as a counterweight to China. Meanwhile, Russia, an adversary, remains a key supplier to the West. This contrast highlights inconsistencies in Western trade policy. The West often operates with two distinct logics when it comes to international economic measures: punitive sanctions for adversaries like Russia, and a set of economic policy tools for partners such as India. These approaches may look similar on the surface, but the intentions and justifications behind them are quite different. Sanctions on Russia are designed to weaken an adversary's economy, disrupt its industries, and ultimately force a change in government behavior or policy. Yet, even these harsh measures come with notable exceptions: carve-outs that allow Western countries to continue accessing vital resources or maintain certain economic ties when it suits their own interests. In contrast, trade measures against India are usually presented as efforts to protect domestic industries, ensure fair competition, or advance climate goals like carbon reduction. These policies are not framed as punishment for India's foreign policy choices, but as necessary steps for economic or environmental reasons. However, for Indian exporters on the ground, the impact is often indistinguishable: higher costs, more paperwork, and reduced competitiveness in global markets, regardless of the official rationale. Ultimately, the difference between sanctions and economic policy tools is often a matter of diplomatic framing, not of practical effect for those affected. This dual approach creates two sets of rules, one for adversaries and another for partners, leading to a fragmented global trading system. It undermines the credibility of a single, rules-based international order, raising questions about fairness and consistency. Instead, it suggests that flexibility and exceptions are made based on shifting relationships and national interests, rather than on universal principles. The result is a system where trade rules are applied inconsistently, fueling skepticism and mistrust among partners, and making it harder to build lasting cooperation in the global economy. From India's perspective, the West's dual approach looks hypocritical. India, a key partner, faces tariffs and trade barriers, while Russia, labeled a pariah, continues lucrative exports to the West. Indian officials highlight this double standard, questioning why they're pressured to cut Russian ties while the West maintains its own. The EU's CBAM is especially contentious, seen as penalizing developing economies for climate action. This sense of unfairness erodes trust and encourages India to prioritize its own interests. The message-received global rules are shaped by the powerful and applied selectively. India responds by building resilience and adopting a more transactional approach to its Western partnerships. The West's contrasting trade policies raise a fundamental question. Are global trade rules truly consistent, or shaped by power and politics? The ideal of a rules-based order is undermined when principles bend for strategic interests. Sanctions on Russia show that even in the face of aggression, economic self-interest prevails. Meanwhile, trade measures against India serve to shape the economic landscape, not punish a foe. This inconsistency erodes trust and encourages nations to act in their own interests. In a multipolar world, such selective application of rules risks greater fragmentation and protectionism. If major powers don't lead by example, Others will follow suit, threatening the cooperative frameworks that support global prosperity. The challenge is to balance strategic flexibility with fairness and predictability. The world needs a trading system that's both fair and predictable. Double standards undermine trust and weaken the international order. The West must recognize that its trade policies are closely watched and have global consequences. Genuine dialogue with partners like India is essential to avoid the appearance of green protectionism or economic coercion. Developing nations must also build resilience and diversify their trade relationships. Ultimately, a stable, rules-based order requires compromise, transparency, and mutual respect. Without it, economic friction will only deepen geopolitical divides, leaving everyone worse off.